today we are talking about the requirements for your um, National History Day outline. But in addition, we're just going to talk about outlining in general. So, you have heard me propose several times that there is a certain order by which you should write, and that this order begins with researching, coming up with your thesis, creating an outline from your thesis, and then filling in that outline. Well, today I'm going to suggest that that is especially important when you are writing a research paper. Remember, every single essay you write, whether personal, research, informative, or literary, does have a thesis, should include a thesis, and this thesis should create an outline for the entire line of thought demonstrated in your paper. Now, the thing is that we, as high schoolers and just inexperienced writers, often tend to write about a topic rather than a line of logic. We don't always follow our logic, and therefore our paper is not as strong. It doesn't um, reveal a strong argument because it kind of wanders around a bit. Okay? So, when we write a longer paper, for example, an NHD paper that's between 7 and 10 pages, we tend to get even more lost and confused on all the stuff we have available to us and all the research that we've done and all the quotes that we have, and think about how can we make this really meaningful. We tend to forget that, and we tend to write a lot of paragraphs on a topic that don't hold to a thesis. Remember, an elementary research paper tells you about a topic. An adult, mature research paper writes towards a thesis, writes on a thesis of a topic, proves something, demonstrates new knowledge, demonstrates not only summary, like you might do in fifth grade, but also demonstrates critical analysis and connection between several primary sources, several primary documents, okay? And so in order to do this, we really have a lot that we have to hold on to. I mean, you guys are going to read lots of sources you already have. You're going to come up with primary documents and sources, and these will not be analyzed for you. These are not things that already have an outline created for you. You are going to need to create that outline. You are going to need to create an argument unlike that of others, okay? And so I'm going to tell you that you need to outline, and we're going to go over what I expect from your outline. The outline that you're going to write for National History Day should, in the end, entail um, all of your paper. I'm going to argue for you to write the entirety of your paper essentially on this outline document, and that is for a specific reason. That is because you need to contain your logic for an extended period of time, and this template will let you do that. Okay, so I have filled out a template, not for the entirety of a paper, but for a good section, and we are going to go over this. Okay, so you want to first and foremost make sure you know what you're thinking. So for this paper, Miss Morley is the learner. I'm not on a team with anybody else, and I'm looking at the topic of the often forgotten leadership and legacy of Elbridge Gerry's commitment to the welfare of the United States and its citizens. If I wanted to, I could cut this off and I could just say the often forgotten leadership and legacy of Elbridge Gerry, but as I've done my research, I've really focused in on what aspect I want to acknowledge, and thus this is what I want to acknowledge, okay? So how did I get here? Well, I answered these questions. What was the specific leadership demonstrated by the individual or event that you are researching? I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff that Elbridge Gerry did. Okay, these are all the things I found that he did. And basically, what I found was he's known for gerrymandering, which is the practice of redrawing district lines for one's own benefit. But he was really only loosely tied to that endeavor. And he didn't create it. He was not the one who was starting that idea. But because of a political cartoon that was put out on the time, we remember him because somebody created the word gerrymander, okay? Instead, he was very, very dedicated to serving the US citizenry and the American people. He was nonpartisan. He fought for separation of powers. He actually would not sign not the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution that was proposed by the Constitutional Convention because it did not have a Bill of Rights. And because he did that after the Constitution was ratified, a Bill of Rights was added. So he had a large legacy. So I wrote down, what is the legacy and historical impact or effects of the individual or event? Well, he changed many outlines of the Constitution, particularly keeping with the separation of powers. He actually got many um, specific rules changed in order to make sure that everything was kept safe and legitimate. He held together the Constitutional Convention by chairing a compromise of the lower and upper houses. So the Constitutional Convention was actually getting ready to break apart because no one could come to compromise. And since Jerry always spoke to compromise, always argued for compromise, they put him as a chairman over a committee to create a compromise, and he set forth a compromise that was used and is what we utilize today. And specifically, that included the fact that the lower house or the House of Representatives would have the number of representatives based on the population of a state, whereas the upper house, the Senate, would have equal senators amongst all of the states. And he came up with that compromise. So he held together, and he did that despite his own thinks and feelings because he knew that this was what was best for the United States to stay together and create a new constitution successfully. He also inspired the need for a Bill of Rights by refusing to sign a constitution without one. Okay, so this is his impact. So he significantly changed our constitution, thus thereby changing our government system, thereby changing the United States and many um, aspects of our lives today and those affected by the United States. So, you want to know the cause and effect. In a historical piece in particular, you're looking for your thesis to include a cause and effect. So, what was the cause and what was the effect? This is what I argued. Due to Elbridge Gerry's commitment to the perseverance of U.S. citizens' liberties and security above all else, to the point of being willing to be disliked and considered untrustworthy, he helped to create a constitution and thus government system that ensured individual security of freedom by maintaining separation of powers and a Bill of Rights. Okay, so pretty clear. Then I wrote that into a major claim. Now, this first part isn't really a major claim. It's kind of part of my argument, but it's not the significant. Here's my significant argument. So let's read through it. Elbridge Gerry is the unfortunate victim of history's tendency to oversimplify its memory of people's acts and intentions. Okay, so we don't remember Elbridge Gerry the way that he should be, basically what I'm arguing. While Gerry is most usually remembered, if not for his misrepresented, so that's definitely a argument, relationship with the practice of gerrymandering, then for his seemingly impetuous and disloyal ways. In actuality, Elbridge Gerry was perhaps the founding father most wholeheartedly loyal to his nation and its people. Okay, so even though he's most usually remembered, if not for this, then for this, he actually is wholeheartedly loyal to his nation and its people. It is, in fact, only with the help of Elbridge Gerry's dedication to preserving the security and general welfare of U.S. citizens above his own desires, reputation, and opinion that the U.S. has the famously liberating Constitution that it does today. So that's one big major claim, but I found a lot of information, okay? You'll notice I wrote subclaims and minor claims. Subclaims do not have to be complete sentences, but minor claims should be. And if they're written correctly, they should actually be written pretty similarly to how they will be written as topic sentences of your paragraphs. Remember, your subclaims will never be they do not have to directly be stated in your essay, but your minor claims serve as the topic sentence of each paragraph. Thus, it is important that they are written as complete sentences, not simply thoughts or phrases because I need to be able to follow your line of logic. What you will find is I wrote a lot. Remember that if you're in college prep, you need 7 pages. If you are in honors, you need 10 pages. Okay, so that's going to be a lot of paragraphs. Every minor claim we can assume it equals 1 paragraph. And if we count here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, and then if I get to 13, you can see subclaim 6 and subclaim 7. I have possible if space allows. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So if we take out our little calculator and we say we had 13 paragraphs, 2 to a page, so I divide by 2, that's 6.5 pages before subclaim 6, where I say if space allows. So actually, that's 6.5 pages. Now you add an intro and conclusion to that, and that is probably going to get me a paper about 7.5 pages long. Now, I tend to be able to write a lot more, but easily, this should take me to about 7.5 pages. So I'm good if I'm in college prep. However, if I have the 18 paragraphs that I left space for, in addition, I have 9 pages worth. So add an intro and conclusion, and I'm to 10 pages. So I'm meeting my honors requirement, okay? So this is all explicitly stated. You will notice that I wrote each of my minor claims as a complete sentence. This is just a random one, but Jerry only reluctantly agreed to pass a law that inspired the gerrymander in order to ensure extremist Federalists did not unfairly take control. Okay, so I wrote them as complete sentences. Okay, a detailed outline. You will see I followed the example. I want you guys to go in and review your introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion paragraph format because you're not really following it, and it will help you out so much. You will notice that I did each of these steps in my paragraphs. I'm going to let you use this page and you can go through it specifically. I really, really want you guys to focus on your body paragraphs. You really need to follow these steps. You need to make a minor claim. That means an argument. You should not start with a quote. You should not start with a summary. You should start with an argument, okay? A minor claim, a claim that is supporting your major claim, okay? You need to establish the context for relevant evidence. You need to attain the credibility of that relevant evidence. You need to link that relevance to your minor claim and then your minor claim to your major claim, okay? So I've given you an example here, and I've given you an example of your conclusion paragraph. You guys need to go through this completely. And as you can see, like, look, my conclusion paragraph, woo, this is a big conclusion paragraph, right? I wrote it out as an entry, but this is an entire document. So if I took this, I'm going to take my body paragraph, and just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to create a new document. And I'm going to put this together as a paragraph. Now, I write longer than you guys, but I just want you to see this. Ooh, wow, this paragraph is actually probably longer than a half paragraph. Oh my goodness, it is. Let's make sure our margins are all set to the way it would be in MLA format. All right, we're gonna go to 100%. Here is the body paragraph I wrote out. Whew, I actually could break this up, you guys. I wrote a whole page in MLA format, okay, using this. You probably don't need a page. This is probably longer. I have several quotes in here. I might need to shorten them, or I might need to break them up into too many points. But in one point, I wrote that out, okay? Additionally, if I take in my conclusion paragraph, let's just take my conclusion paragraph. And we're gonna all right. So as you can see, this is more than a half page itself too. In fact, this one is just under a page. So all of this could be cut, but already, because I've done this system, I have 2 pages. I mean, this is ridiculous. But you have, that's how you should write it out so that you can make sure your line of thought is. It's always easier to cut than to have to add. And your paper always feels stronger when you write more rather than less, because then you cut down to the most important stuff rather than filling in with filler and kind of flaky results, okay? So I want you to go through that step, review my outline, and follow that through. In a couple weeks, you have your outline due, and that's what I want you working towards. It should take some time. This is what you're working on from now until it's due date. All right? Good luck.